So we are finally back in Melbourne. It was a long trip, but we had an absolutely amazing time. So we thought today we would do a bit of a recap on our Rajasthan adventures with Nevermind. This was my first time as a tour leader, and I haven't experienced that role on one of these trips until now. And it kind of threw a whole new perspective onto the trip for me. I was there to guide people, and I got to show people my favorite parts. Now that we're back in Melbourne, I'm feeling a bit fresher and much more relaxed. These adventures are definitely not a holiday as such. You feel like you need a holiday after your holiday, but that's not to say that it's not absolutely exciting and brilliant and fun. It is long, like you're on these bikes for 10, 11, 12 hours a day. And you're not doing huge distances as you saw in this series. So we're lucky if we did 200 to 300 kilometers in a day, and that would take us 12 hours. So it's slow and it's tiring because you have to be alert the entire time that you're over there. You're dodging cows, you're dodging trucks that are going in the wrong direction down roads. The local farmers are just pushing motorcycles off of the roads, and you're dodging locals. You know, every little village that you go through, they run out onto the roads to wave and say g'day, and you kind of just got to weave and duck your way around. Now, the roads in India are fucking terrible, to say the least. There's more potholes than there are roads in some areas. And because Nevermind Adventure does take you through all these back farmlands, you do see a lot more of the countryside, and you do see a lot more of the culture around Rajasthan. And that there is what makes it so amazing. So one of the things I get asked the most about going to India is, what is my favorite part of India? Now, obviously the motorcycle adventure over there is fucking amazing. Like, you're seeing parts of a country that no tour would ever take you. And doing it on a motorcycle makes it so much more exciting. You can smell the world around you, you can feel the heat, you can, say hello to the locals and things like that. But I think the thing that I love the most is Rajasthan itself. I've done the Himalayas, I've done the coasts of Goa, but being in the Thar Desert, there is nothing else like it. It is probably one of my most favorite places I've ever been to. The sand dunes, the culture, the cities, like Jaisalmer, for example. This beautiful city that is entirely made out of sandstone. I don't think I've seen anything like that in my life. Then you go to cities like Udaipur, which is filled with these massive lakes, and it's this ancient architecture everywhere. The cities, the culture, and the landscapes in India are just incredible, and you have to see them at least once in your lifetime. Now, I have to admit, the first time that I went to India, I didn't really know what I was getting myself into as far as riding a motorcycle in the country. Once I got there, I just kind of got into it. Now, I ride a lot, so I think it would be very different for someone that hasn't had as much riding experience, and especially like overseas riding experience. You kind of just throw yourself into it and just go with the flow. Traffic in the Indian cities is chaos, to say the least. It's like a river. Now, this is my best advice that I can give anyone. Don't fucking stop. Just keep going. Get on your horn. The horn is to actually let people know that you're there. It's not to express, get the fuck out of my way, or that you're pissed off like it is in Australia. In India, it's the biggest one gets priority. When you're out in the open roads of a place like Rajasthan, there's very little cars. The most you're going to encounter is the odd truck and maybe a tractor. It's beautiful. Like, the road conditions are horrible for the majority of it, but that's half the fun. And when you're actually on a motorcycle in India, and especially on a Royal Enfield, it's such an iconic bike over there, and to ride it through these cities and through the countryside, it's just exhilarating. It feels right. People wonder why we take Enfields rather than like BMW 1200 GSs. You don't need a big bike in India. Like I said before, we're traveling 200 kilometers in 12 hours. Having a GS or something like that is gonna make zero difference to that, because it's road conditions and traffic and congestion and all the other shit that comes with being on a road in India. So the Royal Enfield Bullets and the Himalayans are absolutely perfect for riding India. I talk about all the stuff that I love about this trip, and there is so much to love. What I hate the most is the early mornings. All right, I am not an early morning person whatsoever. Every day we're pretty much up at 6 a.m. and we're on the bike 6:30, 7 o'clock. When you're on these trips, obviously your body clock gets a bit messed up when you're traveling to different time zones. And then having to try and get up at 6 o'clock every morning just fucking wrecks me. So that's why I look so wrecked in a lot of these videos, especially the early morning stuff. A lot of people talk about how amazing the food is in India. Now, I'm not disagreeing with this whatsoever. Depends on the area that you go to, depends on the quality of the food. Obviously in Rajasthan, we're in farmland, so there's lots of chicken and goat meat and stuff like that. Good quality meat is hard to find, and I tend to steer clear of the meat because if you're sticking with vegetables, you're less likely to get sick. And I tend to go down quite often in India. I've got really crook a couple of times. My last trip to India, I ended up in hospital in the middle of nowhere, literally a truck stop with a makeshift hospital. And I remember those guys taking a blood test, and in my head, they picked up a needle off the ground, blew it off, and stuck it in my arm. Like, the look of fear in my eyes in that video was real. So it depends where you're eating. The food can be awesome, or it can be pretty average. Now, this is like just personal taste, but I'm fucking over dal. If I never saw another dal in my life, I would be the happiest person ever. But to counteract that, there is some amazing dishes, like the curries there are incredible. And look, you're eating curry breakfast, lunch, dinner, and every snack in between. There's not much else variety out there. What I've learned to do is I take packs of like beef jerky or something like that. Now I know cows are sacred in India, but it's a good sustenance. I take some snacks from home just to sort of fill me up when I get a bit over the curry. And I did get over the curry pretty quickly. But when you get a good one, fuck, it's so good. Other than that, like, there's actually nothing to complain about. You know, like, some of the hotels are a bit average, but they're the best in the area. Nevermind do a really good job at finding unique or the best you can get in an area. Like, in some places you're staying in hotels with, you know, nothing but small tiny villages around it. Like, these aren't first class hotels, they're not 5-star living accommodation, and there's nothing in the area that does come up to that. But on the flip side, we stay in some of the most incredible old Havelis and palaces and things like that. And you get to some of these hotels and you just walk up and you're like, holy shit, this is epic. The architecture, just the history in these buildings is absolutely amazing. I really have nothing to complain about. I just love the adventure. So we touched a little bit on the bikes previously. Now, I have grown to love the Royal Enfield brand after doing all these trips in India. The Bullet 500 is a fucking tractor, to say the least. It's really slow to start up. It kind of starts to wind up. It feels like it's gonna stall, then it fires up and you're good to go. The Enfield Himalayan is a modern version of a Royal Enfield. And the new version of the Himalayan is a fucking incredible bike. Like, it's comfy, it does everything you want it to do. It's not a fast bike by any means. And in Australia, I think they're like $6,000, $7,000 brand new right away. Like, value for money, that's an absolutely incredible bike. If I had a choice of buying a Bullet 500 or a Himalayan here in Australia, I think I would actually go for the Bullet 500 because it feels like a Royal Enfield. It's a single cylinder tractor engine and it just chugs along. I do like them. Like, I never really wanted much to do with Enfields and that, and I never really went out of my way to try and get one to ride or anything. Now that I've sort of immersed myself in the culture that comes with the Royal Enfield brand, I've actually grown to really, really love it. Now they've got the new Enfield Twins that are out. Now these are like basically the bike that Triumph should have made. It's a 650 learner approved cruiser here in Australia, and I rode one of those recently, and that is probably one of the best 650 twin cylinder bikes I have ridden in years. I just had so much fun on it. Obviously these Royal Enfields are built to a budget, and they are a budget bike. While they're cheap, they're still a sort of higher level motorcycle to own over there. You know, most Indian people will just have a little brand name bike that you've never even heard of. So when you go to these villages on a Royal Enfield, and even like particularly the Himalayan where they've never seen one before, the whole village comes out to look at these bikes and it's quite a spectacle. So if you're riding a Royal Enfield in India, there's sort of this element of respect and brotherhood that goes with it. And that I really love. And that's the culture of Royal Enfield that I've really grown to love myself. Now, I am a huge advocate for motorcycle adventures. Traveling the world on two wheels is the most incredible experience you're ever gonna have. Now, I get a lot of people that come into the shop and ask me, I've never done it before, should I do it? What do I expect? How hard is it? And my advice is just fucking do it. What have you got to lose? Like, there is nothing stopping you from jumping on a motorcycle and going on an adventure. Whether you're doing it here in Australia or you're gonna arrange it with a tour company overseas, or you're gonna go it solo, just have a crack. My best advice is find a good quality bike if you're going overseas, or find an awesome tour company like Nevermind who arrange everything for you. Now, this is not a sales pitch for Nevermind. Now, I want to get that straight, all right? Yes, we've done a lot of work with these guys in the past, but I fucking love what they do, all right? Now, Nevermind are a little bit different to other tours that I've done in the past. I actually said to myself years ago, I would never do a tour. I went on a Contiki tour as a kid and I fucking hated it. I was stuck in a bus with a whole heap of people that I didn't like and didn't want to hang out with, going to the most touristy spots of each capital city through Europe. It was fucking shit. That was my point where I said, I don't want to do tours anymore. Then I had the opportunity to get out on a motorbike tour with the guys from Nevermind Adventure. I was like, I'm gonna be on a tour, I don't know these people. I've done 6 of them now, I think, and I've had a blast every time. And what I find is there's a lot of people that are traveling on their own, and they don't necessarily want to travel on their own, but they might not have mates that want to do a motorcycle trip with them. A company like these guys, they get everything done for you, give you the opportunity to meet like-minded people. I don't think I could do India better than what I've done with Nevermind. Sorting out the bikes, sorting out your flights, your travel insurance, all that stuff, your accommodation. Like, I wouldn't know how to find accommodation in some of these cities. Like, they're not on TripAdvisor, so you literally would have to ride around just knocking on doors trying to find someone to help you find the local hotel. Now, I follow a lot of other YouTubers that do this stuff, and this is something that I see all the time. They're literally like running around at nighttime trying to find a hotel because they can't find one on Google to book in advance. I guess that is a real big benefit to doing a trip with a tour company. A couple of big tips that I'm going to give you for embarking on a motorcycle trip. My first one is make sure you have some really good quality luggage, all right? And don't take too much shit with you. You only need a couple of pairs of jeans, a couple of t-shirts and a motorbike jacket, because when you're changing accommodation every night and you're on the bike and you're on, off, you don't want to have to lug out a suitcase, go through everything. And most of these hotels, you can get shit washed really easily, so they'll do it overnight. My second bit of advice would be, if you're traveling to India, take lots of fucking hand sanitizer and toilet paper. They do not use toilet paper very often over there. There's some hotels that you go to where there won't even be toilet paper. Thirdly, get off the beaten track, all right? Don't just Google the main tourist places to go to. You know, walk the back streets of these cities. Find out where the locals are eating, not where the tourists are eating. Go to the markets that the tourists don't go to. You'll get stuff cheaper and it's usually better. And they're not trying to scam you. They're actually really stoked that you're spending money in their city. I remember one night in Bundi where we stumbled across this little local market and we went around to a couple of these vendors and we wanted to try their food. And they refuse to take our money. When you're out of these tourist areas, you meet like the most hospitable, friendliest people that just welcome you into their cities. So get off the beaten track, get out of the tourist areas and explore these cities. So I think that's about it. If you guys have any more questions about riding motorcycles through India, where to go, what to see, or if you have any questions about my experience with Nevermind Adventure, chuck them in the comments below. Now, don't forget to subscribe, like this video, and we're gonna see you on our next adventure